What's going on, everybody? Welcome back again for another episode of the Antler Up Podcast. I'm joined by another PA brother. I got Tyler Wilber on the podcast. Tyler, second time on. It's been too long. We just said that. So, dude, great pleasure to have you back on.
Hey, I appreciate it, Jeremy. It's always a pleasure, man. Always enjoyed hopping on the podcast with you. You're right, it's been too long, but we got some catching up to do, buddy.
Yeah, dude. So I've had you on twice. I've had John on twice. Angela's been the no-show. I got to get Angelo on the podcast, and then we'll finally have the and I've had Ty on the podcast. Yeah. So yeah, man, we got to get Angelo on. He's the lone wolf that's yet to be a Antler Up Podcast guest from Legacy Pursuit.
Yeah, man, I'll have to say something to him, get on him about it. He's typically a standalone guy when it comes to being on attendance wise. So
yeah, nothing wrong with that though.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's sometimes we all bust each other's chops, but sometimes Angelo gets a little extra rough shove here and there.
Yeah. Well, he looked like he had a fun summer getting married. You guys were out there, and It looked like his honeymoon was pretty cool. We went out to South Africa. Did he go? And
Africa, and he tug out on a beautiful kudu bull.
Yeah, that's awesome.
A trophy warthog too. I mean, the tusks on that thing. When he sent the picture, I was just like, I couldn't even, it looks like something that, you'd see AI create or something like that.
Right. Oh man, that's cool. Good for him. And congratulations on getting married. For some people might be saying you idiot, but congratulations.
No, Lisa's pretty good with his hunt time. So yeah, she's a good lady.
Nice, man. So what's new with you, brother? It's been, like I said, it's been too long. I'll just do a quick little catch up of what's happening in your world.
Yeah, man. Well, like I was saying, dad life can be busy at times, but nonetheless, whitetails are still on the mind, of course. For me right now, getting ready to head out to Indiana here next week. I leave. Me and John are going to go out there and do some early season whitetail hunting. I've never chased the Hoosier bucks around, so I'm pretty anxious to get out there and after it. As far as prep goes for this season, I just got the bow back restrung, so I'm shooting laser beams again. So, but as far as that, man, I know when we spoke last time, I was chasing around Big 8, and unfortunately last year
I saw that.
Yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes. He was harvested by a young guy that was right up the road, and it's just kind of the way she falls sometimes. Not always as what we see it and how we plan it out in our mind, but this year, for me, I just purchased, me and Brittany have our own place here, have some acreage. So I'm chasing a buck in my backyard that I named Homestead. I know we've talked about him before.
Yeah.
So he's kind of my hit lister as far as this year goes. I was on the down and outs with losing that 6-year bout for Big 8, but I licked my wounds and found another one to chase. So here I go, man.
Yeah, man, you're one of those rare breeds that really try to get after that one buck. I mean, I know you've killed other deer in the meantime, chasing him and all that type of stuff, but not many times here in the state of Pennsylvania do you have history with a buck, especially that long. I mean, I'm in a similar boat. I haven't really had the chance to see that deer on the hoof, like actually hunting. My dad has the one that I'd say he's a big 9. Last year he was a pretty big 11. But it's fascinating in the state of PA. Like, again, you don't have many opportunities to chase a buck for that many years, but that's just the way it goes. But dude, I want to kind of go back to something just because we're in that kind of same part of our life, man, where we have a full-time job. We have our wives, our spouses, we have kids, we have the content type stuff in the outdoor industry that we love so much, like to do as a creative outlet and all that stuff. How are you handling, like, preparing for this season? Like, do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel like, man, I'm just going to have fun with it? Where are you at on that? Just because there's been times, like, for me personally, I'll answer just quickly. Like, I've felt like I haven't been doing enough. I haven't been, like, whatever. And I kind of, like, just sit back and it's like, dude, it's all right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And whatever happens, I'm just going to enjoy those moments, those sits. And I obviously I could sit there and say that because the season hasn't opened up just yet, but I need to remind myself as we go through this, to stay on that. And, that's why we've done past history of scouting. That's why we've done, previous hunting seasons in general. And we just continue to push ourselves. So at times I felt underprepared and just feel like I'm bombarded with other things. But where are you at with that, man? Just because, again, I know you got some little ones and everything. You got a lot on your plate as well.
Yeah, life gets crazy sometimes, and family always comes first, as always. But, I think, as you were saying, it's finding that right balance between your home life, the outdoors, that type of thing. Like you said, having that historical data already prepped in seasons beforehand. Deer are going to pop in and out of the picture constantly through our lifetime. You know what I mean? And it's just another void will fill, and it's finding that one to play the game. And it's always being that kind of step ahead, being prepared, like you were saying, right now, juggling the dad life, the work life, that I'm this year, as far as the content goes, I haven't been putting a lot out there, but like I said, their family comes first with this one anyways. But as far as I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole, I'll lose my train of thought, Jeremy. But
all good, man.
No, as far as this year goes, I'm just kind of letting the reins go, and remembering what's important and why I grew this passion that I have for hunting. And that definitely wasn't to beat myself down in a tree stand, So, I mean, I'm kind of throwing it to the wind. I took a big loss, with Big 8, but devoting my whole entire seasons to hunting that buck. I also had cameras in other areas, other different pockets, trying to find another big one to chase, for Plan B.
Yeah, and, I like that. All well said. Just because, like you said, man, you got to go back to why you do this. Doing the other stuff is fun for it, and that's not why we hunt. You know what I mean? And so to build on that, obviously with having that history of the Big 8, and he got taken him last year, and this year you have the Homestead buck. What's motivating you this year to and what maybe what's motivating you, Tyler, but also like what has you juiced up for this year?
I think one of the biggest things is myself hunting on my own property that I own. Yeah. Something that's just been a personal goal of mine, to harvest a buck off of my own property. And it's not big, mind you. I mean, I'm hunting a 1 acre block of timber in my backyard. That is just perfectly topography wise, it's perfect for what whitetail do. And having kind of that knowledge helped me scout that. I also dove into the whole land management thing this year by clearing out some invasive species in my woods, just making it a perfect habitat for them to thrive in. That's kind of what has me juiced up, is actually seeing the fruits of my labor come to fruition this year, man.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's a whole nother beast.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's the one aspect about this world of hunting that I just truly love, because in my young 20s, I really was down the rabbit hole of fitness and all that type of stuff. And, there's a bunch of different things in that world as well. And being a health educator, health and PE teacher, it's always evolving, right? Like one year it's like, don't eat this, it's really bad for you. And then more studies come out and it's like, actually, this could actually help lose weight, all that type of stuff.
On this.
Right. Exactly. So things are always changing. And, in this world of hunting, specifically archery, that's the one aspect that I've really this past year really have enjoyed, just doing like the competition side of things. Like that's just a whole nother world. And I spoke with another recorded a couple days ago with Jordan Kofta, and he's up in New York, and he's in he works for Elite, and he does like a rep in that northeast area. And he was just saying, like up in like the New England area, where a lot of people they're avid archers, just not hunters. Like they compete a lot. Like there's just so many. And I think actually one of Matthews is like biggest bow shop area is up in that area, just because, yeah, like one of their number one selling spot, like one of them is up there. It's just because there's so many people that love archery, which is, you know what I mean? It's just another world. And then you get into the hunting things, and then you get into the land management and all that type of stuff. It's just, there's so many rabbit holes that you could really go down. And like you said, Tyler, seeing what you've put in, like your blood, sweat, and tears at your time, even if it's just to watch a fawn, a young yearling just eat something that you planted, or, you know what I mean? Or see turkey coming in and just all that stuff. I could only imagine like what that must feel like. And that's really exciting for you, man.
It is, man. I'm looking forward to, you know, hopefully, I've been doing my homework, you know, still talk with Steve every now and again, and been keeping a nice dialogue as far as when this buck shows up, what's the wind, what's the pressure, just really doing my homework with it. So I'm doing my due diligence. I'm hoping that it pays off. I'm feeling confident. Everything's ready on the bow end. I just need the situation to happen.
Yeah, dude. So what do you have in store for this year before we get into some other things? Like obviously you said you're going to Indiana, you have the state of PA. You know, are those the two main states? Because I know you did Kansas last year. You and Dad did that with John and everybody. So what's this year look like for you, man?
So this year's forecast is going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to be me, John in Indiana here next week, and then after that kind of brings me back home. I'm going to be hunting Homestead, hopefully to punch the tag, and then end of October, me and my dad are doing the traditional trip to the cabin.
Nice.
Hopefully I'm punched out by then. If I do, I have a doe tag. I'll be hunting bear as well while I'm up there with my bow. I think it's that overlap season that I'll be hunting. So that's pretty much it as far as it goes for me for this year. We're starting to kind of get the ball rolling on plans for next year already. But it all depends, you know, as your draw states it all depends if we draw. But hopefully looking next year to go back, make another trip out to Kansas again next year if we draw. And if not, I think we're going to Maine to bear hunt. So,
nice. Yeah, dude. What's that when you say about going up with your dad upstate and everything like that, doing the tradition? What is that for you? Just because a good buddy of mine that lives up in New York, Bill Harvey, we were supposed to record this past week and shit hit the fan with the family. And we had to reschedule on my end. The joys of having a 5th grader and then a 10-month-old, or you know, all that type of stuff. So with that, I want to have an episode where we really talk about tradition, just because just hearing his and what he does year after year, it's just so fascinating. I want to talk to him about that. So like when you say you're going up with your dad, what does that look like to you as far as, or like, what does it mean to you, that tradition to go up there with him and all that stuff? Just because my tradition's a little bit different. Like mine is just going up to the mountain with my dad and hunting. We don't have a cabin. We don't have anything. It's just going to the house and it's just spending time. Like that's my tradition. So what is your tradition, Tyler, when you go up with your dad?
So typically it's me and Dad. We typically try to stay to the same time frame, like end of October to like the first 2 weeks of November. One of those weeks in there, we typically always go every year to the cabin, me and him, for, you know, about a week time span. This year, it's not going to be quite as long, you know, with the little guy being here. It's a little different story, but we're going to go up. I mean, typically just being up there, having that camp atmosphere with all the members at camp. Everybody comes in at the end of the night. Oh, what'd you see? What'd you see? That whole type of atmosphere. It's really, that's the good stuff. And that's the whole love for this whole thing that we do. That kind of stems. That's where my roots grew, up at the cabin. So that's what we look forward to every year. So
heck yeah, man. Well, that's what when we get into the nuts and bolts of this podcast, that, you know, we're recording this a little bit early compared to when this is actually going to air, but it is going to be that time frame. So I'm excited to when we get into that.
Awesome.
But before we do, well, like one more kind of just housekeeping ones, Tyler, like when you think about maybe the past year or two, obviously you learned a crap ton for 6 years chasing that big 8 and everything like that. What kind of challenges did you face, and what did you learn that you are really going to try to implement going into this year? I mean, it could be as simple as the patience. It could be as simple as like just using the data. Like what kind of challenges did you face, and what are you doing this year to maybe help you just be that little 1% better?
I think like one of the things going forward that I kind of threw to the wind, no pun intended, was your wind and how it can change on a dime. Like my app, there's been times where I pull out the Onyx app and I look at my scent cone. I'm like, I feel it's blowing the opposite direction. So I think that data is good, but I take that with a grain of salt. And what I mean by that is, some of the things with technology and how it evolves in the industry and stuff, I think there are great things about it, but I think it reaches a certain point where, and especially it can be situational, like here in PA, you know how the topography can change on a dime.
Oh yeah.
Thermals could pull one way, and I think we need to just get back to, I guess I shouldn't say we should get back to, one of the things I should take into consideration more is just being there, dropping a piece of milkweed. Okay, here's what I got to do, versus relying on the technology. And there were times too where I thought I had Big 8 figured out, like I got him, this is it, and total switch in plan. He's not there. Now I'm chasing my tail for a whole week. I've learned that a couple years. I chased my tail around all over the hills there, chasing that buck around. So I think going forward in long short, just kind of being in the moment and not relying on technology to tell me how to hunt.
Yeah, dude, that's the one aspect that I think when someone could unlock that and like trust their gut a little bit more. I mean, there's multiple times I talked about it on the podcast before where the deer that I finally got on film last year, like that hunt was a solely doe mission hunt. I knew the deer population in that location. I have a pretty good chance of seeing a doe. And I was like, all right, let's go film something. I had a little extra time and everything. So I got out there and I was like, ooh, the wind's a little dicey. And here I am trying to kill a doe that's, I mean, they get some pressure from where that location is a little bit. So I was like, what the heck, just throw a sit at it, learn from it. And when I was walking in, it's the one location, it's not a far walk. So I was like, all right, I know where the vicinity that I need to be. Let's look at some of the browse. And I saw just a ton of browse and a ton of fresh scat. And I was like, I need to be in this area. Some acorns were also dropping because it was early October still at that time. I'm like, I just need to be in here. And the wind was kind of just I was like, it's just dicey. And I'm just going to throw a sit at it, see what happens. Dude, the app was saying my wind was blowing directly to where this doe was coming from, and she fed just the entire time for about 15-20 minutes. No clue I was there, even to the shot. I'm not a big stop the deer before I shoot with a call or anything like that. I try to wait until they stop on their own, and that's what happened, and it played it in my favor, and I was able to get the shot finally on film and record that and all that type of stuff. But like you said, if you let technology kind of dictate your hunt, dude, I think you're hindering yourself 100%. I really do. And dude, I mean, the one aspect that I think you're even also alluding to is not necessarily hunting with your hair on fire, where you're going to be bouncing around and going crazy, but you're just going to get out there and enjoy it. I mean, that is the one aspect that I love right now, where my mind frame is at, is just, like I said earlier, if I go in and it's only a quick hunt after work or something like that, man, I'm going to soak that up and absolutely, man, enjoy those times.
It's the process that we love. That's why I do it. That's what keeps you coming back to the woods. If you figured it out, hang your hat up and be done with it. You know what I mean?
Yep. So what you're saying, you're kind of talking to Steve, and you've stayed in contact with Steve. When we talk about that, it's Steve Shirk. So everybody, we just had him on the podcast before, and you've spent some time with him in the woods scouting and talking with him. So like some of those scouting kind of traits, what's some of the biggest things that you've really picked up on, like hanging out with Steve Tyler?
I think one of the biggest things is overlooked is browse, and Steve really broke it down to me. And the really only sure way, no app's going to show you on a map where to look. You have to get the boots on the ground, into the browse, what to look for. And especially one thing, I took away was checking out cuts, any type of cut, looking for your hemlock tree that sticks out in a clear cut. Go to it. I guarantee you there's probably a bed underneath it somewhere. Them high stem count areas, there's so much. I mean, when I met Steve for the first time and he took me and I was following him through the woods with a camera, and he was at a graceful walk and I'm like tripping over myself. He was pointing at things left and right. My mind was like, whoa, man, there's so much to this that I've walked by that a million times in the woods, and he opened my eyes to a lot, and I can't thank him enough for all that he's shed on me,
Yeah, no doubt.
But definitely, like, finding beds is one thing from Steve that I really took away and utilize, and I could take it anywhere and find a bed now, and what to look for at the time of the year when they're starting to shed their winter coat, in the early season, to look and kind of see where that buck's at in late season. Like things like that I look for,
Yeah. So when we talk about like that season, especially October, because October is a very good learning month for individuals. Like you could learn about the food aspect of things, like you were just saying, the browsing. You could learn about certain deer behavior, the way they communicate with each other. And then there's like when you can't find them and all of a sudden you're in them again, and the pre-ruts happen. And when in October do you really like getting out there? Like, do you do a lot of emphasis on the early season, or do you wait a little bit? What's your kind of game plan? How do you attack the month of October?
So month of October is kind of a weird place. And a weird by meaning I don't really get out there early on. And that's just kind of how I generate my scouting. And what I'm looking for. That's kind of one of the starting points to what I'm scouting for when I step in the woods, is like, okay, time of the year that I'm going to be here. You know what I mean?
Right.
The majority of the time it's going to be no sooner than the third week of October. I'm in the woods. And when I scout, I'm looking for my community scrapes. Deer always have that communication line open. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. And you can never go wrong the later part of October over a scrape that's a community scrape, mind you.
Yeah.
I just think they're over. I mean, now everybody's starting to catch on to them now, which good. I mean, utilize it. But that is definitely kind of one of the things when I'm stepping into the woods, I'm looking for scrapes. Any type of hard edge in the woods, whether it be, a stand of beech against some open mature timber. I'm looking at that edge, along the edge, looking for a rub line, but in the later part of October, I'm definitely hunting for scrapes, and I'm checking them to where I'm gaining my intel. I typically always have like a video trail camera on the scrapes that I have marked and pinned.
Yep.
Just to gain that whole seasonal data, for the following year. So.
Yeah, dude, that's been the one aspect for me that I've loved to do as well. It's really helped me out, especially in the position that you and I are both in. Again, just limited on time, scouting wise, limited on actually getting out there and making the most with each sit, as being as efficient as you possibly can. Whether it's seeing deer, I mean, even just seeing a deer is a lot better than driving home and coming home to the wife and telling her I didn't see shit today, right? So. As far as that goes, I'm with you. And the one aspect to build on that, what you were saying about as far as scrapes goes, I mean, I've learned this through just so many different people. And I mean, there's not one person to really pinpoint this on, but I love finding that secondary scrape and looking around and finding the true primary scrape, like that one that is just, it might be 20 yards off in a different, up the next trail, or just off, like you were saying, maybe from a cut. And, that's where if I could maybe hit, on my camera, like both scrapes in a sense, somehow, some way, or if it's, that may, like you find that secondary, then like I said, maybe 20 yards up from that one, there's the mother load of it. That's the one that I love running, like you said, like a regular SD camera on video, a 10-15 second clip, and those are the fun ones, no doubt.
Yeah, man. Something too I've started doing now is I'll take like the little survey ribbon and I'll hang it on a branch and somewhere in the frame to see, okay, this buck came from this direction when the wind was blowing that way, you know, or in the morning the ribbon's blowing down, so then thermals are pulling. Just little stuff like that I'm starting to incorporate, and I feel like it kind of makes me more precise. Like you were saying, we got to be efficient as possible when you have a limited schedule to get out there. So those are all things that I'm starting to incorporate, and hopefully they pay off.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. So how much, with hunting your own property, for especially back at home, and you could maybe discuss this first, and then I want to make sure I then ask you about it for going out of state to Indiana. But let's talk PA first. What's your game plan for hunting that, in the sense of not trying to put too much pressure on it? Like, are you still maybe going to bounce around to some public? And because I know I'm pretty sure there was one time, like in last hunting season, where you're like, oh my gosh, that you were on public. I could be wrong. I just remember you just being like, there's just people everywhere at one point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, you're right.
So that's tough. So like pressure does play a role. Like, I mean, you could have a cell camera out right now on public, and you're like, yes, no one's there. And then lo and behold, like something could just floodgates open, no doubt. So what's your game plan as far as that goes with pressure? Because obviously you want to hunt your own land. You don't want to, push it, do all that crazy stuff. So what's that look like for you? And then we'll get into the Indiana aspect of things.
So right now, I'm only going to go when it's possibly the best conditions of hunting possible. If there's any question whatsoever, if my wind, I am not going to push it. Like I said, I purchased my property last year around end of October. I came out, or I'm sorry, beginning of November, excuse me, is when I got it. So I was kind of late to the game, but I was able to put a camera in here. So I have that kind of end of the year intel on this buck. He hasn't gone anywhere this whole entire time. So I'm not, if it's questionable by any means, I'm staying out. I've even I cut that way. My work in there was done at the end of July.
Oh, nice.
Just want him to totally be secluded. He's there. He just showed up here 2 nights ago in daylight. So I'm staying out. All my cameras got fresh batteries and everything, but as far as hunting goes, hunting him, like I said, optimum wind is probably everything that's going to base my hunt around this buck. Prime weather days are going to be another one that I'm going to be looking for in the forecast. Hopefully they fall onto my days off, but I mean, he's here, and I'm not going to push him out. And as far as over hunting it, I have a couple other spots up my sleeve on some public land around here.
Nice.
Just a little bit more hiking versus, right out the back door.
Those, oh man, I just want to get a quick one in, and you have those times. Yeah. Those ones are all usually the struggle bus ones where you're like,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's good that you'll have that. So now, like, let's flip it. Like you and John are going out to Indiana, like you said. You're going to be, how long are you going to be out there for again?
So I'm going to be out there for 4 days. I'm leaving Thursday night's my flight. I'll get into Louisville. I think I land like around 12 or something like that. And then I think next morning I got to go grab the tags. And then after that, I think we're hunting that evening. So my first sit out there will be Friday, hunt Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday I'll hunt too. And then I'll come home Monday evening.
Monday evening. Yeah. Yeah. So it's quick, right?
It's going to be a quick one, man. It's going to be hot and heavy. As far as what I got in store out there, it's just, I mean, we're going out there with one of their president. He is the president of Waterfeather, Mr. Jeff Klump himself.
Nice.
So we're super stoked to just be out there and spend time with him and the guys from Waterfeather. We always loved, spending time with the guys, and I think I'm more excited to have that again, that deer camp atmosphere, and just the camaraderie of it all is what I'm really looking forward to. But I think Jeff has some tricks up his sleeve for showing me a thing or two about some Hoosier bucks. So
Yeah. No, that's cool because I mean those trips are I always like I look back to my Maryland hunt last year. It was a weekend. It was literally opening day and day two, and that
Yeah.
was it. With the hope that maybe later on in the year I could have gone back down, but obviously life happened and other
Yeah.
things kind of came into play. But that's just right. That's a couple-hour drive. This is you're going a couple states over. This is probably this is it, right? You have 4 days to try to make it complete. And the hard part about those trips are, like you said, you want to be with the guys, you want to hang out, you want to have that camp feel,
Yeah.
but then you're like, dude, I only have X amount of hours to actually be in the woods.
You're
Like,
on a clock. Yeah,
you're on a clock, but so like that's the aspect of it. You have to. That's when like for me personally, like when I go anywhere in the future where I know I won't have, like when it's a trip like that, just limited time, like that's where I'm just gonna let it, like we said, hunt with my hair on fire. And at that point, I might be a little bit more aggressive and and try different things or push the limit and do those types of things. So yeah, man, that would be like kind of my approach. And how else could you enjoy the camaraderie with everybody else, but also test yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's a good thing to maybe test yourself in a challenge, and that's a new outlook that I would definitely try.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you. I think pressing the parameters. I know one thing I want to try and accomplish is me and John being in the same tree out there, kind of sharing that moment
Hell yeah.
together if one of us scores. So it's going to be kind of on the fly. We're going to have the camera rolling, so we'll capture all of it on film. That's probably another aspect that I'm looking for as far as goal for the trip is to capture, a good solid kill. It's been a long time since I had a kill on film, so I'm trying to.
Yeah.
We're reaching certain skills, man, but I think ultimately just enjoying myself while I'm out there, kind of letting go of the reins at the same time is my mindset going into it.
Yeah, dude, I envy the part where you said you're going to just hang out with one of your best buds up in a tree and hunt together. Like Jim and I were discussing that last week when we had like those certain units in the state of PA open up, and he was in one. He already has a kill under his belt. He already killed a doe. He said too, because last year he and Josh were both like on their farm that they have access to the hunt. They're like, we're not killing a doe until the rut, blah, 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 blah. And this year they're like, dude, there were so many deer. We'll be fine. Like, let's let one rip. Jeremy, come on down. And I ended up getting a tag for that unit.
Okay.
We had some family stuff. My daughter had some stuff that I needed to support her for. Yeah. So, and it was dependent on weather and other things. So weather was decent enough that they had it. So I stayed home, but, like 7 something in the morning, he already texted me with the lighted knock in the ground. And I was like, let's go. But we were like leaning up to it. We were like 2 little schoolgirls where we're like, dude, we're going to not even see deer, 'cause we're just going to be giggling and laughing and like just cracking jokes to each other the whole time. Right. And man, I envy you that you have the chance to do that. We will do that this year, no doubt. But I think that's awesome, man. I hope you guys just have the time of your lives out there doing that, and just make those memories of that, and that will be exciting stuff.
Yeah,
I like that, dude. Yeah. So to talk about this pre-rut time frame. Okay. And like you were just saying earlier with scrapes and all that stuff, I'm trying to think back to some years past where I would go back home to Northeast PA, and when I was like substitute teaching, when I was only part-time teaching, and there was like always that random day, like Friday, it would be like the 18th time frame, and some days I would take that day and I'd go home and hunt Friday, Saturday with my dad. And one of those days, at least, for like two years in a row, Tyler, I released an arrow and missed, and on two really good 8-point bucks. Yeah. And I was always like, man, why that time frame? Like I just never understood it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't really clicking. And the first one that I took a shot at, Tyler, was I had these doe come up, kind of run past me, and when they're past me, they stopped and they're looking behind them, and then like when I saw that happen, I was like, there's a buck coming. And then like right on the edge, here he is, he's standing there, and he kind of took a turn going up. He didn't come follow through, And I was just like, man, he's pestering those does a little bit. Like that was interesting.
Yeah.
And I took a shot at the time, dude. I didn't even have a rangefinder. I was just like, yeah, pew, let it rip. And I like shot right underneath him. And then the next year, well, one was just I just botched the shot. Like it was a close in shot and I just got buck fever like you wouldn't believe and just botched it. And at that point, again, it was the same time frame. And it was just a normal like location. It's just a good travel area where deer would go through, not a lot of pressure, all that type of stuff. But last year when I went in, I knew, and this is my philosophy going into this year as well, I know that time frame between like the 19th, like you were saying earlier about weather dependent, the 18th through that till Halloween, if that's when it really heats up there. And then they're like that early October, October 1st through maybe the 4th, it dies down a little bit and then it fires right back up. Do you have a spot or like where data has told you the importance of that like this time frame? Yep. I know that deer are scent checking either scrapes or this is a great travel corridor between bedding to food during this time frame. Do you have a spot during this like pre-rut end of October time frame that what do you hone in on during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of them is a travel corridor that I narrowed down, have multiple years of data on this one key location. Topography wise, it's a nice transition area. It's an easy way for them to get to bedding all the way out to the ag. Nice. So it's one of them things that I've looked at for years and seen, okay, consistently almost to the hour. This is how I stumbled onto this. Was I made a mock scrape on this little transition area, threw a camera up over it, and Big 8 showed up. I was like, holy crap. Okay. He hit the scrape. The next year following it, he would always show up, and he was a ghost, and then it was the same day. That's how he would work. Same thing the following year, almost to the hour, he showed up there, literally walking by the same camera at like 11:30 in the morning, just on his feet cruising. And also other bucks, your satellite bucks and stuff like that. Right there, the end, you look at the, your date stamp, your temperature at the bottom, and it's always consistently what I've found is it's always below 50.
Okay.
So I'm looking for that colder temp. And, like Steve told me too, that cold front knock at the end of October, man, that is a deadly time to be out there in the whitetail woods. And I've seen it on my data. My data shows me that. So it's kind of like when I'm always thinking for the year for vacation wise and taking time out to get out there, that always from Halloween to November 7th, right in there, you can bet your second hand I'm always out in the woods in a tree.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That information for someone that is limited on time is so valuable.
It is.
Because those first couple of years when you don't have that, man, like you are chasing your tail at times. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I truly do believe hunting is more luck than it is anything else. Right. And
right place, right time.
Right. I mean, there's skill that goes into it. A million percent. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes down to it, I'm like, I shouldn't have killed that more times than not. You know what I mean? Or I shouldn't have had that opportunity. So like if you're chasing your tail, man, that's the importance of getting in there maybe a year or 2 years in a row, or putting a camera long-term soak, just something along those lines that you could get some sort of information. Because when life throws you lemons, man, like you got to be able to, and you have those opportunities. You have to be able to make some sort of lemonade or some type of cocktail. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's, and even if you don't go back to that area, like there's a local spot here that I let a camera soak for like a year and a half that had good deer on it, had some people on it, but like the timing of when they were there makes sense. And I know, you could get away with it maybe a little bit here and there.
Right.
I haven't had a camera there in a while, but I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to throwing some sort of sit at it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like just because I have some sort of information regarding that. So I really encourage people to do something like that. And, I think that's some really good information about, especially hunting that time frame. No doubt about it. So now let me ask you this, Tyler.
Yeah.
We kind of talked a little bit about it already, but when shit doesn't go our way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like when we are on that struggle bus,
Yeah.
what do you do to maybe help kind of get you right a little bit?
So to kind of bring it back down, I will literally take a whole day and just do a reset day. I won't do anything. Even if I'm up at the cabin, I've done it before where I sleep in, gather myself, have a nice breakfast, couple egg sandwiches, take a nap, get up, and go out with a refreshed mind. Just it's nice to just sometimes clean the slate.
Yeah.
Just wipe it clean. But ultimately, I keep in the back of my mind, if something's not going right for me here, and I go back in my mind like, okay, it's not happening here. I need to go back and kind of historically think about, okay, some sits that I went, and there are times where I just go on a strict recon mission with my climber or my stand on my back, and I'm going just to sit so I can see a good amount of area and try and pinpoint, okay, they consistently traveled on this trail, find the trail the next day, I'm there. You know what I mean? I just kind of try to leapfrog it. That's kind of where I go when I'm in the down and outs. I'm thinking, okay, what can I do to change this up? What's the formula that I'm looking for? You know what I mean? So
Yeah. No, I like that. So what was Kansas like last year hunting with your dad and everything?
it was awesome, man. To recap it, it was probably one of my favorite weeks that I've ever had experienced. And I flung an arrow at a buck of a lifetime that John ended up killing. And it was just super cool to be there. Super cool to have Dad with me, driving out there. We were in disbelief that we were doing the trip, and it was always a dream of his to take a Kansas whitetail, and he accomplished it. It had its lows really early, so I'll go into it real quick.
Please let it rip, man.
So we got out there. We left. It was I think, what was it, 23-hour drive for us to get to John. So me and Dad split it up pretty good. We got out there. It was later, like late morning, 10:30. So we just kind of wanted to take a nap, and then we were going to go out for the evening. So the first evening, we're going out. Me and John are walking Dad into his stand. He gets up in his stand. We're walking out. John's going with me. We had this buck Megatron. I was going to go in, and we were going in after him. John was filming. So we get up in the tree. We get there. We get my stand hung. We're just settling in. I have pulled my bow up. It's on the bow hanger. And Dad calls John's phone, and I'm like, oh my God, he punched a tag. And I can tell immediately as John picks up the phone, he's like, hey, Dad, I knew something was wrong. And he looks at me and goes, you what? Here, Dad got up in his stand, got his bow up, knocked his bow off the bow hanger, and it fell to the base of the tree and cracked his limb completely in half.
Oh, man.
So he was out, not even an hour into the sit. He didn't know what to do. So John was like, well, I have a crossbow. He's like, we're going to go home. We're bringing it out to you. So we got down. We ran it out. He was like sick as a dog,
I bet.
And it was a low spot. And I told him, I was like, hey, just keep your head up. Like, this is our first day. We'll get you squared away here. So he ended up hunting the rest of the week. He hunted his butt off, came close a couple times with a buck. Just didn't present him the right shot. He wasn't used to. My dad's never hunted with a crossbow, so this was his first time go at it. And then finally, the last full day of our hunt, Dad went out to this one spot that we saw. Me and him, I rattled this buck into a field that morning, and he came out and he just kind of, I don't know if he was running a doe around. It was kind of like that gray period. I could just see his main beams, and he went back and. Dad got down from his stand then, and he decided to hunt on the ground, just kind of pull an audible. He's just like we were saying, he kind of threw everything out the window and was like, screw it, it's the last day.
Yep.
He built this ground blind where this buck kind of went back in, and sure enough, lo and behold, he came out and he center punched him, man. It was a great moment, experience with the guys, with Dad. It was awesome.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. I was hanging out with Brett from Whitetail Advantage last night, and we were talking, and he asked me the question, like, if you could have any hunt, like, with somebody, you know, like, or whatever, like, who would it be, and what would you do? And I said, man, honestly, I said, I want to take my dad somewhere where he has a chance to shoot like a big buck. Like, I want to have, like, just to have that opportunity with him. And that's awesome that you did that. Like, like last year when you were kind of chronicling that and talking about that, you know, I had John on. And so he mentioned that you and your dad were going to go out there and all that stuff. I was like, man, that's so cool. I hope that one day I get a chance to do that with my dad. And, I bought a point for my dad in Kansas. I have a point or two. Like, I'm sure maybe we could pull something. It's just suck. Like that's where, like, the part of life really hinders what we want to do one day, like, for hunting, because I know I could pull my Iowa tag. So it's like, when could I do that? I know I could pull my Kansas tag. When could I do that? It's just, you just have to wait for that right time. And that's the stage where I'm at, unfortunately. It's a good thing, right? Because I know when I could put in for it, but at the same time, I want that Kansas trip to be with my dad. Like, I truly do. I want to be able to, and he's almost at the age where he could retire here soon. So I'm like, do we wait for that? So like he, you know what I mean? His
freed up,
his time's freed up and all that type of stuff. And so maybe we'll see. And so that's pretty awesome. You have that opportunity to do that with him. And he ends up being the one that
he did, man. And I was super stoked. When I was out there with John, I was like, dude, I don't care. Like, I'm here. I want to see him kill the biggest deer of his life. You know, that's what matters to me most. And that was the goal, and it was achieved, man. So I was super excited about it.
Dude, and like, the awesome part about it is, those of you watching this podcast, obviously you could see behind Tyler, he has some great deer behind him. But like, what's so cool is, last year when I went through the state of Ohio and I saw like the 2 biggest buck on hoof while I could actually hunt them, right? Like, hunt them. And I just remember just being like, what? You know what I mean? Just like, they do exist. Like, like the ones you see in Cabela's, they actually do exist. They're just not, made from something. And what was that like when you finally saw like a mature, like a big mature, Midwestern
awesome.
Kansas buck?
It was something, here in PA that we never see. I mean, out there you would see 150-inch deer running does all over this cornfield, literally right in the road ditch. The one day me and John were driving by, ironically, it was this buck that Angela was hunting. His name was Floppy. And we're driving by, and this deer is in the road ditch, right off the road, bedded up with a doe. And he stands up, and it was just like, his rack, dude. I can't even get my hands around it. It was just wild to see. They look like dinosaurs out there.
I know, man. You're like, man, they actually do exist.
They do exist.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some beautiful, really big deer here in the state of PA, especially, you know what I mean, in certain pockets, but they're not in a ditch down in the road running. Right. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? No, that's awesome, dude. I'm pumped for your season. I can't wait to hear and follow along with what everything is in store. Like the home buck, like, that's awesome. The homestead, you're going into Indiana with the guys, and I'm excited to check that out, man. You guys always do a really good job with putting out some stuff out there of following along, and some videos and the pictures, all that stuff. I respect that. And you guys do also, we're doing the podcast and everything. So, where could people find you, follow along, all that stuff, Tyler?
Yeah. So you can find us on Legacy Pursuit on Instagram. We have our YouTube channel as well. I'm on Instagram, Ty Wilber 59, but, fall on this year, we're going to be doing, this is the second year doing the Fall Madness series. So that'll start, I think we're going to launch it October 31st for Halloween. Nice. So that'll be the whole month of November. Hopefully hopefully I'm giving a report that I have one down here in the next couple weeks. I'll definitely be sending you pics, buddy. But
heck yeah, man.
Thanks again for having me on, dude. I really appreciate it.
Dude, always a pleasure, man. It's good people, and I appreciate your time and all that you do, man. So definitely go check out Tyler, check out Ty, check out John, check out Angela over on the Legacy Pursuit. Good people. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, for watching, for listening. We really appreciate it. Good luck out there. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Antler up.